Good evening. It's Monday night. The Olympics are in full swing and you are watching The Punter. And you're watching it on Sports Tonight in the company of myself, Trevor Harris, and Chris Graham. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Trevor. I'm good. I'm really enjoying the Olympics.
I'm also good, but I'm frustrated.
Yeah?
Very frustrated by this. This cauldron will not go away. The whole nonsense surrounding it. This controversy. Different bookmakers, different rules. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too surprised, to be honest with the different payout systems. I mean, there's various incidents these tend to happen where some bookmakers will pay out in controversial decisions. So I wasn't too surprised, and a very shrewd move by Paddy Power and Ladbrokes paying out in the 7 mentors in what is a very mainstream market.
You say it's a shrewd move, and just to let you know exactly what Chris is talking about, Paddy Power and Ladbrokes are paying out on any of the mentors, so the likes of Redgrave and Kelly Holmes, who had a mentor, one of those young athletes like the Cauldron. William Hill, on the other hand, are refunding all stakes. So if you back, say, Roger Bannister with Hills, it's a money-back job. If you backed him with either Ladbrokes or Paddy Power, you lose your dough. One man whose input on this I'm fascinated to hear is Russ Wiseman. We'll speak to Russ a little bit later. But why do you think it's fair? Why do you think it's fair? I don't get. If I'm back Roger Bannister with Paddy Power, I'm furious because my mate, who's backed him with Hills, hasn't lost his money and I have.
It's a volatile, really inordinary market. You know, it's not an everyday market. And when you place a bet in this kind of market, you've got to expect strange things to happen, or sometimes not even get a run for your money. And that's what's happened to a lot of these people who've bet on Roger Bannister. But Ladbrokes and Paddy Power didn't really have to get involved and pay out the 7 mentors. So, you know, if you've backed one of those 7, you've got a nice surprise.
Yes, but it's no consolation to me as a Bannister backer. I guess whichever side of the fence you're on is
he wasn't involved, so he shouldn't get paid.
No.
That's
well, but no, because Bannister, OK, he didn't light it, you're right, but nor did Redgrave, and nor did Kelly Holmes. They didn't light it either.
Yeah, I would have, if I had backed them and not got paid out, I would have accepted that.
Right.
I just think it's a nice bonus by Ladbrokes and Paddy Power, a very shrewd one and a calculated one, with bear in mind it's a very mainstream market that was discussed in the BBC. But yeah,
I'll tell you what I think. I think they should be an option on all these kind of novelty markets. Any other or none of the above. So we had the Queen, we had David Bond, we had Harry Potter. If there was an any other quoted, that would have solved the problem, wouldn't it?
It would have been a very short price, to be honest.
Okay, but still it would have given punters an option and there wouldn't have been any argument.
Yeah, I guess so, but you know, it's a fun market. Stakes should have been very low. I wouldn't get bogged down in how serious this is. I mean, you know, I would feel sorry for like.
But it's a point of principle, I think, Chris.
Yeah, I happen to think that if I had a backed Bannister, I wouldn't have been too bothered. I would have just accepted it and revelled in the opening ceremony.
You're a better loser than me, that's for sure. I want to talk to you about happier things now,
yes.
Olympic-wise. Both of us were very sweet, weren't we, on the pre-Olympic bet, most gold medals, China versus the States. We're off to a flying start. 7-4 we tipped it up at, didn't we? 7-3 is the current score.
Yeah.
And the other good news, 7-3 to China that is, the other good news is America have won 5 silvers. So that's 5 chances for golds they cannot win.
Absolutely, Trevor. You called it first, and I followed you, and I thought it was a great shout. I just couldn't understand the pure price discrepancy between the US and China after China won 15 more gold medals in 2008 than the US counterparts, and we saw China rise up from finishing 11th in 1988 right up to being top of the pile in 2008. They're on the way upwards, and that original price of 74 was very generous.
It's early days, but let's talk to the man whose firm laid 7-4 to both Chris and to me, and hopefully to you, about China winning more golds. Russ Wiseman from Sporting Bet. How are you, Russ?
Hey, Trev. How you doing? Hi, Chris.
Hi, Russ.
Are you about to take your athletics or your Olympic trader out and give him a flogging for putting up 7-4 about the Chinese? Early days, but they've got a nice little lead already.
He's on coffee duty, Trev. Coffee duty, that guy. We don't like him at the moment. He's not doing a good job at all. No, it's a very tricky market, this one, because I still think we'll see some fluctuation. Obviously, the initial 7-4 we laid, we did see some good money odds on for the USA, but the bulk of the money then, when the big tipping papers came out, the big tipping lines was for the Chinese. You guys were ahead of the market, and I have to give you credit for that as well. But there's a long way to go, isn't there, guys? A lot of gold medals to be won. But if you're looking at momentum at the moment and the way it started off and just the pure maths of it, they look good odds on shots at the moment, China.
Yeah, they do. I think the big money you saw for the States was Bet Butlers, who's going to be in the poorhouse shortly. Got to ask you, Russ, about the controversy that Chris and I were just talking about, the Cauldron. I think I did actually ask you, didn't I, last week, what happens if it's none of the above? And that's exactly what has happened. And we've got this situation where different bookmakers have different rules. And I find that a little bit off, to be honest.
Yeah, so, I mean, I didn't actually hear the previous conversation, so apologies for that. But I've got very firm views on this, actually. And you might not like what I'm about to say, but, you know, punters, you have to tread very carefully on what I call a silly market. This is a silly market, guys. This isn't for proper punters. This is for 5s and 10s, as we said. And I think you just have to accept that if you're betting on markets like that, you just have to abide by what the bookmakers say. Bookmakers are under absolutely no obligation at all to make gesture payouts on something that wasn't a winner. Now, if people had actually made a request for any other or any other named, bookmakers are obliged usually to price that up.
Yeah.
But it is very, very difficult if you're in that situation as a bookmaker. Personally, if it was my market, I would avoid all bets, just return stakes. I certainly wouldn't pay out on, as some firms have already done. But you can imagine the numbers involved in this, boys. It's not big at all. It's tiny money. Yeah. It really isn't a significant factor. If it was hundreds of thousands of pounds, let's be honest about it, do you really think us bookmakers will be forking out? It's a PR stunt many times. I've been part of that as well. I'm glad to sit this one out, I have to say.
OK, well, no, I mean, I think we were saying it was a kind of point of principle. I accept the amounts involved are not great. All I was saying to Chris was that if I had backed Roger Bannister, then I would be a bit miffed about losing my money at Ladbrokes, whereas I would have got it back at Hills. Graham Sharp, who usually talks sense on these matters, said no one could have predicted this, and he, like you, said just give everyone their money back.
I couldn't agree more, Trevor. I think well, I mean, listen, I mean, you have to have some fundamental rules in place here. I absolutely agree with yourself and Graham Sharp on this one. I mean, you didn't get a run for your money. I think common sense has to prevail. I 100% do not subscribe to the fact that there should be concessionary payouts just for PR purposes. Yeah. Because, like I say, those really are just a stunt, and you know the money involved then is small. You know, it has to be stakes refunded. Completely not fair to not receive your money back in that situation.
All right. Well, let's just going to rub in this gold medal thing with you, Russ. We're going to show the odds for the latest odds for which country is going to win the most gold medals. 4-7 China, 8-5 the USA. Anything you like the rest. It's all turned round, Chris. Magnificent.
It's the classic flip-flop, isn't it? It's a complete flip-flop, and isn't that just gorgeous to see?
So would you be expecting any money now for China, or are they too short, Russ?
Well, it's pretty much so. I mean, I just spoke to our traders now who are going to update the end of play. They're going to be 4-9 China, so even shorter than that. So, you know, you have to look at betting momentum at the moment. And let's put this in perspective, guys. We're watching the Olympics here. We're listening to commentators. We're listening to pundits like you. When they put that medals table up at the end of each night and people physically look at it, everybody wants to back the team who are in front. Yeah. That's the way that people usually look at it. That's the way they want to be. At the moment, I can only see there being money for China, but it's still very hard to step in. Clearly, the USA are going to have a good run at some point. Yes. It's just a question whether China are going to be long gone, but they seem to have so much depth in their team, China. Some of their athletes really are producing at the highest level. We're going to mention one of them who I think could be the superstar of the games in the swimming regatta at the moment. But I mean, it really is a fascinating market, this. Definitely got his call right, you guys, and well done to do that as well.
Well, if it gets any shorter, I think you should just pay us out, like some chaps do with United every March. Let's move to Formula One, because it was a fascinating weekend yet again. Hamilton won in Hungary. And I just sense a bit of a sea change, Chris, with the way that the championship's going now.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis Hamilton must be so gutted that this mid-season break's happening now. They finally look like they've got the car sorted out at last, the McLaren car, the much divided McLaren car. Looks like they've sorted it out. And yeah, we've saw his price half from 11-1 and 11-2 for the Drivers' Championship with some firms. And momentum at last with McLaren. Huh?
What do you think, Russ? Is this a potential milestone in the season that Hamilton now can challenge for the title? He's a fair way back. He's about 50-odd points back, but with 25 for a win, he could still do it, couldn't he?
Oh, guys, I think you're even underselling it. I think it's a huge sea change. And Chris mentioned the kind of half-time break, Trevor. We're off for a month now. Yeah. You're completely right in saying that maybe it would be nice to sneak in another quick race for the McLarens, but they've got some great momentum with them now. They've clearly got something right. This month, really, is when the title will probably be decided. Any adjustments people are making, the work that the drivers do with their teams, you know, obviously it's a month off, but this is the real hard grind from the engineering point of view. But, you know, look at those points. I mean, it's not as big as you mentioned. Trevor, you were quite right last week in saying that 40 points, or 25 points as it was at the time, between Alonso and second, it looks like a lot, but all you need is 2 or 3 good races, and all of a sudden you're in front. I think, as Chris mentioned, the price may have halved, but you have to say that when this starts kicking off again in Belgium, the money will surely be for Hamilton, unless we hear some bad vibes from that team.
Well, let's have a look at the odds then, shall we? The current odds on the Formula One Drivers' Championship. 10 to 11 odds, so still odds on. Vettel at 3s, Hamilton at 6s. That 6 to 1 appeals to me a little bit, I've got to say.
Yeah, momentum completely behind him. Like I say, 11 to 1. He was, and you can only see him getting shorter now. If this McLaren car really has sorted itself out, and they seem pretty happy after the events yesterday, that price will definitely go. Perhaps before Spa, before the Belgian Grand Prix, it'll be a lot shorter than that, like Russ suggests. Alonso just sort of just drifting a wee bit at 10 to 11. That was his 23rd consecutive points finish yesterday. What a man. Consistency is his middle name.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. So 6 to 1 Lewis Hamilton. You may very well think even that is value, and I wouldn't put you off. 10 to 11 Alonso, with the car seemingly nowhere near as dominant as it was earlier in the season. That'll do it for part 1. Russ, if I could ask you to stay with us, perhaps put a pair of Speedos on during the break, because we're going to talk swimming when we come back. We'll see you in a moment. Welcome back to the Punter. You are watching Sports Tonight, of course, and we're going to talk swimming. 3 big finals coming up imminently. 3 gold medals to be dished out. The men's 200-metre freestyle, I think, is the highlight of tonight. Wow. This Chinese guy, Sun Yang, I watched him yesterday. He's kind of like the most arrogant swimmer I've ever seen, because he has that kind of slightly, I'm number one, like celebration thing he does. But he's clear. I mean, he's the world record holder at 1500, and he's already won the 400 metres gold.
Oh, he's been, for me, the star of the game so far. You're right. His whole approach is almost American-like, isn't it? His arrogance. But yeah, it's quite refreshing to see him, a non-American acting like that. Really.
Yeah, bad news for you, Russ. I'm afraid another Chinaman who's on form.
Well, he's fantastic. This guy is Chris has mentioned, the star so far of the games. I think if things go according to plan here, guys, this is going to be the face and star of the entire games. I mean, let's put this in perspective. This is a guy who's hacked up in the 400. He started off these heats, the semi-finals. He was 9 to 1 before the semi-final, Trev.
Wow.
He's 11 to 10 now to win his 200 metres freestyle. 200 metres, bear in mind. And his best event, which is 10 on, is the 1500 metres. So that's the equivalent, by the way, and I've spoken to somebody who's an expert at this, it's the equivalent of Usain Bolt winning the 100 metres and then winning the 400 metres. Now, can you imagine if he was to do that, Usain Bolt? This guy is just rewriting the books. If he can do the business tonight, we're going to see something very, very special indeed.
Well, here are the prices. You can see them up there, Chris. 11 to 10 Yang, 2 to 1 Agnel, and 17 to 5 Bar, those two. So, the price, he looks a good thing.
You just look at the graphic and you just get excited. I mean, I'm going to miss this race because I'm still in the studio when it was off. But there's Yang, the favourite, Sun Yang, 11 to 10. Agnel, he amazing last night in the relay, reeling in the US, absolutely amazing. He reeled in Ryan Lochte, of course, to 17 to 5. Yeah. And then you got Biederman, who's got the world record for this event at 20 to 1. And then Park at 60 to 1, who was second to Phelps in 2008. It's a race dripping with quality.
Yeah, Park is 66 to 1, amazing. Are you seeing any kind of volume of money on the swimming, Russ?
Terrific money, Trev, really good money. Surprisingly, I have to say, our forecasts at Sportingbet have been blasted wide open. One of the main reasons, guys, is that people, again, enjoy backing the favourites, but I mean, obviously, we're talking about coverage on a rival media channel, but when you listen to the commentators ahead of each event, they are so adamant about certain people that the odds are moving around and fluctuating. I mean, if you'd have listened to the commentary team last night ahead of the men's 4x100 metre freestyle, you'd have awarded the gold medal to Australia prior to the thing even happening. They went off 3s on, for God's sake. Absolutely incredible. So you do see big money in that last 3 or 4 minutes. Huge money. I'm sure Lochte will be back at 100 to 30 around there. But, on the evidence of what we've seen so far, all the pro money for this guy, Sun Yang, like I say, 9 to 1 pre these semi-finals, 11 to 10. Now, how can you oppose this guy? This guy looks like a machine. And like I say, if he does the business tonight with his best event to come, we're going to see the face of the games here.
You might have seen Chris and I just jigging about there to that disco as it started in the studio. So presumably for this, Russ, you've been waiting to do that all night. Presumably for this race, Russ, it's all money for Yang, is it? There's no one else being backed, or is there?
Well, there's one interesting part about this market, guys, and I think it's something we should bear in mind. The only person who's remained static pre-Olympic Games to the race taking place tonight is Agnel. I mean, he's obviously a consistent performer. He's done nothing wrong so far. Obviously, Yang here is at his absolute minimum distance. I mean, like I say, the best event, 1,500 metres. Let's put that in perspective, fellas. No 800 metres for the men, like in the women, for example. 1,500 metres is his optimum distance. He's dropping back in trip. It's the equivalent of a mile and a half winning the Arc going back to win the July Cup. If you put it in that perspective, from a horse racing point of view. So it's about Anyao, I think he can possibly beat Yang. I still think Lochte is too short on what he's done so far in this particular event. It's between them two. Looking at value, you take the Frenchman, but Yang at the moment, like I say, unstoppable in terms of where the money is.
Okay, we're going to move on to the backstroke.
Yeah.
The men's backstroke, 100 metres, and there's a bit of British interest, Chris, with Liam Tancock.
Liam Tancock, yeah. This isn't his ideal event. He's a 50-metre man. He's world champion at 50 metres backstroke. So this is a bit long for him. But there's no. I should point out there's no an event. 50 metres backstroke, not including the Olympic Games. But yeah, he's up against it tonight. He's clearly the third best in this particular event. 16-1, I think, is probably a fair price. This Matt Grivers has looked, really outstanding. The second fastest guy ever at this event. So he deserves to be long odds on for me. But Tancock, 4-6 to win a medal. That's about fair. So fingers crossed for Liam later tonight. Huh?
All right. Well, there he is, 16 to 1 shot. Grievers 1 to 5. They're short and they're short, Russ. But I guess big hitters might be interested.
Yeah, very much so, Trevor. Again, Matt Grievers last night, 6'8", an incredible wingspan. I mean, what a specimen this guy is. Great chance. He's only picking to break the world record tonight, fellas, so he really has got it all in front of him. Anything like a swim that he put in the semis will be enough. Interesting one about Tancock, and Chris is bang on. 50 metres is his optimum trip. But last night in the semis, remarkably, really, he was behind the halfway and actually finished the strongest of everybody in his heat. So that actually bodes very well for Liam Tancock. And as he said in his interview after, if you can find a few tenths from somewhere, a medal's a very real possibility. And like I say, he's third favourite at the moment. Good chance. 4-6 is the right price. He's got to take something magical to beat this guy, Matt Grievers.
Yeah, so effectively 4-6, that's kind of the each way. Because can you actually bet normally each way in a swimming race or not, Russ?
No, you can on certain events, Trev. On this one we're sitting out, when you've got such a massive odds-on favourite, as you know, people who back in odds-on when there's horse racing, bookmakers tend to stay clear of it. We'll win only tonight. I think that's the correct terms. I think a lot of the sharks out there who watch the Punter will be circling around for some each way. But if there is, it's probably only going to be 2 in an event like this, because they're not really going to open it up for the each way thieves. So I think the market there is obviously, if you bet the 50 odds, for example, at 16, you'd pay up around about 3 to 1 money. So 4-6 for the medal, about the right price. If he swims like he did last night, big chance.
Yeah, and he was third fastest, wasn't he, in the heat? So.
He was. So this is his best chance. These games will be too old and real. So it's all been building up to this particular event, like so many of the British swimmers. And I'm confident he can get a bronze tonight.
Okay, let's move it on to the women's backstroke event, because this looks like not going to either China or America if the heats are in to go. We've got an Aussie who's quickest.
Yeah, she's looked amazing.
Emily Seebohm.
Yeah, Emily Seebohm. She was quite a big price actually to win this, and she's just absolutely stormed in the heats and the semis. And there we go, 2 to 9. She's absolutely blistered the field here, 2 to 9. The favourite was this Franklin, 13 to 2, and she's really been disappointing. But Seebohm, I think 2 seconds faster in this heat than she's swam any time this season.
Well, that's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible, and it's blown the Australian media away as well. Absolutely incredible story, and looking strong favourite here now.
I'm just wondering, Russ, whether we talked about the big hitters. There could be a little double here if you back the 2 favourites in the men's and the women's backstroke, just to up those odds a little bit. You'd be not a million miles short of even money, I suppose.
Well, yeah, it's a short price check, but I suppose we'd be cheering on the false start, maybe get this Grievers or Seebohm to maybe get kick-started a bit early. But yeah, this is a fascinating market as well. If you look at the value here, it's an interesting one, because obviously before the tournament here, it was 4-6 on Seebohm, Missy Franklin 5 to 2. She's been touted as the big star. Missy Franklin hasn't delivered in the pool, which is where people want to see it really. The big time discrepancy, obviously, but she's 7 to 1 now. We've got 7 on Seebohm. We think she's an absolute shoe-in here, but I suppose 7-8 to 1 about Missy Franklin is a big enough price. There won't be any each way available, obviously, in that particular race, but Seebohm at the moment, we like to be with people who do it in the pool. It's a lot of rumour, a lot of kind of conjecture, speculation about these people. That's why we like being against the likes of Phelps as well at the moment, not doing the business. But Missy Franklin, the talking horse here, has to do in the pool, hasn't done it yet. You've got to be with the jolly here, guys.
Just one thing I wanted to ask you about your Olympic betting, Russ. I mean, obviously, the BBC's coverage tonight probably will focus on the swimming, but there are all sorts of other sports going on at the same time, and you presumably are actually laying some of them in play. Is it a bit tricky just to keep track of every single thing that's happening in the tennis, the beach volleyball, the table tennis, the badminton? I mean, there can be like 15, 20 sports going on at the same time.
Trevor, it's a fantastic point, and it's actually one I've just spoken with about our Olympic trader, who Chris knows very well, I can show you, literally just an hour ago.
Right.
It's fascinating stuff because we are trying to trade everything in running. We have made a commitment to trade every single event as well, so we're obviously not kind of picking and choosing our stuff here, and it's really opening the door for punters. We've been taken to the Queens today on the weightlifting. There was a weightlifter challenge, weightlifter 5 to 2, went off 3s on, guys. We missed it, we didn't quite pay attention, and we've ended up paying big time. But on the flip side of that, people are obviously following in a lot of these media hype things, like the Aussie 4x100 metre freestyle team. They've been getting big. So it's balancing out, but I have to say, if you are prepared to put the work in, put a bit of time and effort into this, and just pick your spots, you will find bookmakers like Sportingbet who make the odd mistake. Great chance to make a few quid, fellas.
I mean, without giving away any kind of trade secrets, I mean, how many traders would you have on Olympic duty at a really busy time? Because it must be more than one, obviously. Is it 5? Is it 10?
Yeah, well, basically, so what we've done here is we've assigned it to one senior guy who will overlook everything, and then it's literally, and this gives you an idea of what good chance you've got. We're literally chopping it up then to every other trader in the office, and they're being given certain events. It's up to them to then research it, find out what's going on in that particular event, and price it up accordingly. So, you know, the real possibility here is you're getting guys who may be overseas Swedish football trader, for example, who may well be trading judo all of a sudden, may never have even seen a judo match before in his life, but he may have to do. So we're kind of chopping up, giving a good service to the punters, but it definitely opens up the door, like you said, Trevor, and when resources are stretched like this, mistakes can be made. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it works out. At the moment, I'd say it's 50-50. Few gambles going in, but plenty going the right as well.
Swedish football traders having to trade judo. Music to the punters. Russ, for now, thank you very much. We'll speak to you again soon on the Punter.
Yes, stay away, folks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Russ.
Cheers, Russ. That was Russ Wiseman of Sportingbet. When we come back, we are going to talk a little bit more swimming, and we'll also have some hockey and some football. Back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Sports Tonight. This is the Punter. And last night, of course, huge celebrations right across the nation as Becky Adlington won another medal. Not a gold one, unfortunately, but it was a medal, a bronze, in the 400 metres. And that was maybe more than even she expected, judging from her comments pre-race.
Yeah, I think when she won the heat, we're really happy, and we thought, oh, she's back. And then in the heats that followed, suddenly she was in danger of not qualifying for the final. Everyone was getting quite worried, but then she got in 8th place on that horrible lane. But I think she really showed her experience, her grit, her determination, and a fantastic bronze. And you know, she's the darling of the country, isn't she?
And the other interesting point about it was that her time that she swam last night was quicker than she swam when she won the gold, which just shows you how others have improved during that 4-year period.
It's just and that, we see so many world records getting smashed at the Olympics pool. Almost one in 3 events tends to be a world record. That shows you how much the sport progresses over the 4-year period.
Next up for Becky is the 800 metre. I think it's on Friday.
Friday.
And this is her best event, and she's an odds-on favourite, which surprised me a little bit. I would expect her to be, you know, a shortish price, but odds-on.
I was surprised at that. I think. I can't actually remember, but I'm sure she was 6-4 when this originally went out before last night's result, last night's race. You know, 1-2, she's actually shorter in places.
2's on, wow.
2
on. Lottie Freese here is a 3-1 second favourite. And then Caroline Ledecky, she's absolutely fascinating at 9-1. She was born in 1997. This girl, this Ledecky girl, absolutely extraordinary. America's young sweetheart, and she's posted some really fast times this particular year. And I think 9-1 is pretty big for this 15-year-old.
Incredible, isn't it? 15 years of age. But I mean, looking at those odds, clearly the layers think it's going to be a two-woman race here.
They do. Well, Adlington and Freese finished first and second in the World Championships in this race last year, so there is form there. But Ledecky, didn't actually participate in the Worlds last year, but she's sort of, obviously she's still very, very young, but she's just finding her feet this year, 2012. Surprised the American team how quick she's progressed. But has she progressed quick enough to challenge here? I think 91's a bit big.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see really short prices, I kind of think, right, take the short price for the men's backstroke, the short price for the women's backstroke, throw in Becky, and you've probably got about an even money shot. So
it doesn't appeal.
No, because you need three outcomes, and
I
I'd say tonight's two are more likely probably than Adlington, and 1 to 2 is way short for me.
It's way short. It's an old-fashioned patriotic price, isn't it? And it does make no appeal. I mean, you know, I think going into these games, it was a bonus if Adlington got a gold, even in this race, which of course is her favourite event. But yeah, I agree with you. 1 to 2, too short for me. But let's hope she does it.
Yeah, just purely. There are some times when the best bet is no bet. Keep your money in your pocket, watch the race, cheer her on. If she wins, great. You're not going to be beating yourself up about missing a 2's-on shot.
Not at all.
And if she doesn't win, then you're thinking, well, it was a shrewd move not to get involved with your hard-earned.
Yeah, I think, you know, a controversial point, but patriotism almost beats financial gain during this wonderful event. Maybe I'm an old-fashioned though, I don't know. But
there is a market. I mean, you can actually bet on Adlington not to win. So if she doesn't win, then you kind of. It probably feels not very patriotic.
It's a dirty bet, isn't it? To be honest, it's a very dirty bet. You go to confession on Sunday morning and say, "I'm sorry, Lord, I actually backed against Rebecca Adler." It's just a sweet, sweet.
But then
girl.
I suppose you've got the consolation if she wins of being able to sort of cheer her on. It's like a no-lose situation.
Yeah, if you know, there's people who always say, "Oh, I always back against my own teammate." Yeah. Insurance, I find that quite sad. but that's me. You know.
You're a hard man to please.
I am.
Let me talk to you about the hockey because I've enjoyed the hockey. I watched most of Team GB's demolition of Japan, thrashed them 4-0. And have you ever played hockey, by the way?
Once, very badly. Yeah.
It is a vicious game.
Brutal.
Oh, it is. And one of the girls in the I can't actually remember her name, but one of the girls was injured. She got a stick from a Japanese girl, flush on the face, accidental, obviously.
Yeah.
She's gone to hospital. She's got a broken jaw.
Yeah.
They've put a plate in the jaw, and they have not ruled out her carrying on at some point later in this tournament with a broken jaw.
Her name's Katie Walsh.
Thank you.
I think.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right. But yeah, that just shows. I mean, they're so. I can't believe she'll.
I saw the pictures. It was a massively brutal picture.
So having beaten the Japanese, next up with the Koreans, I would be expecting them to go the same way as Japan did.
Yeah, it's of similar class. Japan and Korea, and Great Britain finished third, or rather England. You know, genuinely England finished third in the World Cup in 2010. So this is a team with great pedigree. We should be expecting Britain to get very deep in this competition, and they really are a class above Japan here, Trevor. I'd expect them to win comfortably. Well,
we'll see the odds in a moment, but let's welcome Mark Landon from the Racing Post first of all. How are you, Mark?
Hello, guys. You okay?
We're very good, thanks. I know. Obviously, you're mostly football, but I'm sure you've sneaked a little look at the hockey. Did you catch any of?
I can't get enough of it. Brilliant. I was really negative about the Olympics before it started, but I just can't stop watching it. It's fantastic.
Did you manage to see any of Team GB's demolition of Japan in the women's hockey?
Yeah, I saw some of it. It was clashing with some other major sport, wasn't it? But I did see some of it, and I mean, we're pretty sweet on Britain getting a medal. Actually, I think Holland will be difficult to beat outright, but there's no sort of reason I don't think why Britain can't at least get sort of a silver or a bronze medal in the outrights, because apart from Holland, like I say, I think that Britain have got a great chance of a medal.
I mean, it was almost like watching football because Barry Davis was commentating on it. So you had that.
It's great.
Fantastic
amazing.
To hear Barry. Let's have a look at the odds then, if we can, for this upcoming game between Team GB and Korea. There we go. Very, very short. It's a short price show tonight, isn't it?
It's a very short price show. No, the kind of prices that get viewers that excited, I imagine. But 1 to 6, probably a fair price. Like Mark says, Great Britain have a real chance here to get a medal. They got bronze in 1992. I don't know if you can remember that. Jane Sexsmith. She was the darling of the wee ginger hair girl. I just remembered her last night. But 1 to 6, like we say, a fair price. South Korea of the same kind of level as Japan, so we're expecting Britain to win here quite comfortably.
Okay. Sorry, go on, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, in the world rankings, Korea are 8th and Japan are 9th. So I think if you're looking at it, really, you are playing against a similar kind of opponent.
Yeah, so it hopefully should be fairly plain sailing for our girls. Let's get right back in probably all our comfort zones and talk football, Mark, because the big story so far in the football has been the elimination of Spain, who were second favourites at the start. No, they were favourites, I think, ahead of Brazil, or certainly close to them. And they've lost their first 2 games, which no one could have predicted.
No, and obviously out of the competition.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they won the European Championship under 21s to qualify, I certainly didn't see this happening. I have to say, I felt that, you know, Brazil, Spain were drawn to sort of be away from each other until the final. I felt that would be the final. It would have been a brilliant final had the real Spain turned up. But I think what we have, certainly what I've noticed, and with hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, is that the teams that have relied most on European-based players have not performed at their best so far. I think that we've seen, if you have a look at even, say, Uruguay with Cavani and Suarez, they're not in their season yet, and that it does show. There's no doubt that I think if you're looking at it, the Asian teams, for me, apart from Brazil, are the ones that have really stood out. Of course, Japan has started with 2 wins. I think South Korea were excellent in picking up 4 points. They drew with Mexico at the better of that, and then also went on to beat Switzerland. I think that, you know, they're the sort of sides we should be looking at here. Brazil getting really short in the outright market. With Spain going out, Britain's second favourites. I can't have that. I mean, you know, I know they beat UAE, but I still think that they're a long way short of being a medal prospect in this competition. I'm looking towards the Asian teams to do some damage.
Mark, it's Chris here. I just wanted to ask you, obviously you researched very thoroughly, I read you in the Racing Post and stuff like that. Who's impressed you the most so far in this event? Who surprised you the most? Who you expected not to do very well? Who's really surprised you by doing well?
I would say Senegal have probably been the biggest surprise so far. If you have a look at Asian, African teams have had a really rich history in the sort of this Olympics and underage sort of events before. You know, that they tend to overachieve in these kind of tournaments. I mean, Nigeria reached the final last time out. You know, Ghana. There have been plenty of examples of African teams doing really well at the Olympics. And I was looking down the list of African teams before it started and couldn't really see where the challenge was going to come from. Senegal had a few blows. You know, that they talked about bringing in Bar and Papi Cissé and also a couple of other overage players, and it didn't work out for them. But I think it's worked to their advantage because I know that sort of, you know, against Britain, they really surprised Britain with not only the way that they sort of came out and played their football, also the strength of the side, you know, throughout it. And they were really good value for their 2-0 win against Uruguay the other day. I mean, you know, to play with 10 men for 60 minutes and keep Cavani and Suarez relatively quiet. I think Senegal have probably been the team that has opened my eye. I really didn't expect this from Senegal at all. I know there were a few people who thought Egypt might be the best African side. It's definitely Senegal, and you know, if they can avoid Brazil and sort of win the group and make sure that they get away from Brazil for the rest of the tournament, they could easily reach the final. I've been very impressed with them.
All right, let's have a look at the current odds then. This is for the outright Olympic football. 8-13 Brazil would expect that. Britain are now 9-1 second favourites. Uruguay are 12s, Japan 14s with Mexico. You can see the prices there. And Senegal 16-1 shot, Chris.
Yeah, they've halved in price. They've done, like Mark says, really impressed a lot of people, and that's why their price is short. And Brazil very, very short. They're 8-13. I mean, that's 7-4 they went off at 8-13. Very, very short. And Great Britain, to be honest, what have Great Britain done to be classed as second favourites? Not for me at all. Uruguay doubled in price as well, 12-1. They were might up at 6-1. I've been really impressed by South Korea actually here, way down here at 22. 22-1. South Korea really impressed me. The good the form in the Asian qualifiers, good friendlies obviously leading up to the event as well, and so far so good in terms of the competition. So South Korea 22-1 for me.
I totally agree with you, Mark, about Britain being overrated. I watched the game last night, and there was that period just after UAE equalised. They could easily have scored again. Britain were on the ropes for about 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah,
I mean, I think Uruguay will beat them when they play them at the Millennium Stadium. I know that Uruguay have
not we haven't seen the best of them yet. And like I was saying earlier, Suarez and Cavani have not, been at their best. I think they're still struggling to reach match fitness. But I mean, for me, Uruguay will beat Great Britain. I'm pretty confident about that. I mean, there's not really that much to sort of admire, I don't think, about what Britain have actually done so far. I mean, I thought they were second best against Senegal for large parts of the game. They beat UAE, but that was to be expected, and that they made a struggle of that. They've not kept a clean sheet so far. They haven't really got a striker who you could sort of nail down and say, yeah, I really fancy him to score goals. I've also got concerns over whether Bellamy and Giggs can keep going. I mean, Giggs is 38, and Bellamy struggles to play 2 games in a week in the Premier League, and this would be his 3rd game in sort of no time at all. And I think if you do fancy Uruguay, rather than just backing them to win the game, they might not be sort of the worst bet outright at 12-1, because they're the sort of team that when they get through, we saw that in the Copa America, didn't win the group, ended up with Argentina in the quarterfinals, but that's when they came alive, and that they were a team that grew into that competition. It was pretty much the same in the World Cup, if you remember too. They weren't that spectacular in the group stages of that, and ended up reaching the semi-final. So I think if you're looking if you fancy sort of opposing Great Britain, the best way of doing that might be to just back Uruguay outright and hope that Suarez and Cavani can finally come good.
And is Brazil 8-13? Is that too short for you, Mark?
I wouldn't be backing it, but I wouldn't be in sort of a rush to sort of try and lay it either. I'd rather try and bet each way and get the team that plays them in the final, because I think what we've got with Brazil is clearly the best attacking force in the competition by a long way. Neymar has been excellent in these 2 games. Hope, again, where he's based with a European team, I don't think we've seen the best of him, but they've got Leandro or Pata up front. It doesn't really matter. I think Oscar in midfield has shown everybody why Chelsea paid 25 million for him. They've got a couple of problems at the back. That would be my concern. Conceded twice to Egypt. So they were behind as well, of course, to Belarus. I think Juan at centre back alongside Thiago Silva has looked. He hasn't looked the best. I always think there's a mistake in Rafael, the Manchester United right back. The goalkeeper, of course, got injured before the tournament, so they've got a relatively inexperienced keeper. So I wouldn't be rushing out to back the 8-13, because a team like Uruguay could beat them. Uruguay are warriors, and they'll fight hard. And I think Senegal are another team that could cause them problems. If they were to meet them too. So I'm not in a rush to back Brazil 8-13, but I think that probably is a fair price simply because of how good their forward line is.
All right. Well, time will tell. Mark, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
No doubt join you again soon. And when we come back, we're going to be talking horse racing, because it's glorious Goodwood. Are there any glorious bets? We'll find out in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching The Punter on Sports Tonight. And we are going to talk glorious Goodwood. It all starts tomorrow. Let's hope the weather stays dry. There's some excellent racing.
Oh, yeah.
I think for once, the Lennox Stakes probably supersedes the Sussex in terms of interest, because obviously Frankel looks like the proverbial shoo-in in the Sussex.
Oh, betting interest, certainly.
Yeah,
I mean, Frankel, we're talking maybe going off here at 1-20, which is an extraordinary price, a vulgar price.
That is, isn't it?
It's really extraordinary. But the Lennox Stakes, always a trial for usually a trial for the St Ledger, so interested in that. But yeah, the real star of the show, Glorious Goodwood, will of course be Frankel tomorrow. But it's a great 5 days of racing, Trevor. Probably for me, probably the 3rd best summer festival of the season, so I'm very much excited about it.
I mean, it's only a Group 2 race, isn't it? And yet it sort of feels like it should be a Group 1 race in some way.
Yeah, there's some really classy horses in it. There really is, and I'm expecting a very competitive race. Some really good profiles, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the odds.
Librano, 5-time group winner.
Yeah, I like Librano. That is won his last 2 races in great form. We all know about Richard Hannon and Richard Hughes in absolutely sparkling form at the moment. But No, for me, Chachimadi for me is the shout. It's the favourite, and I hate backing favourites, as you know, guys. It's not part of my DNA. But Chachimadi.
That's the Cecil horse, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And Cecil, unfortunately, not with us at glorious Goodwood this week due to health problems. But Chachimadi, for me, deserves to be favourite. I think she's finished in the first 3 in the last 9 races, so it's consistent as it comes. Tough as teak, and for me, the class act in this race. Around 74 tomorrow.
Let's have a look, see if we can have a look at the prices. You're quite right with your stat about Chachimadi, placed in every race since the start of 2011.
Yeah.
Foxtrot Romeo is the only 3-year-old in the field. That's a 5-to-1 shot. Can you see past the leading couple in the market, Chris, or not?
I am very much with Chachimadi here at 7-4. Lebrano, the Hannon and Hughes team in great form. It's won its last 2 races. Definitely worth a shout. Foxtrot Romeo was second in Irish 2000 guineas, so that's got wonderful form there, definitely. Edinburgh Night, very progressive at 71. You know what I like here? And you can laugh at me and you can...
I'll never laugh. I never laugh at you.
You can laugh at me.
I never
25-1 here, way down again. Mark Love.
Yeah.
Now, he's an old horse. He started racing in 2003, 9 years ago. He's 11 years old. He's an old boy, an OAP in horse racing terms, but I think he's got a shout tomorrow. He won't win, but each way, 25-1. Get me on.
I don't laugh. I laugh at Butler a lot, but not at you.
Yeah.
Never at you. Let's move on to the Gordon Stakes, because this is potentially a trial for the St Ledger.
This is the trial for St Ledger.
Yeah.
I made a bit of a faux pas on. This is the trial for... We saw some great horses win this and go on and win the St Ledger. Locarno,
60s icon.
It is icon. Locarno as well in
Conduit.
2007. Conduit, yeah. Ridden by Frankie Dettori in that magical September day at Doncaster. But yeah, a good St Ledger field here. We're looking for a horse, Trevor, to challenge Camelot. Camelot could go off St Ledger day 1-6. We're looking for a horse here to take him on. And Michelangelo is the one that everyone's talking about, but not quite for me.
No, I mean Camelot is what, about 2s on for the Ledger at the moment. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, and he'll be a lot short on that if he turns up on September the 17th. Yeah, it's a really exciting story for racing the Triple Crown if Camelot wins the St Ledger. But we want somebody to come at the pack tomorrow and be really impressive and start putting a bit of pressure on Camelot.
I thought Michelangelo was really impressive in the Crooked Hat Stakes in particular.
Yeah. I mean, it's won its last 2 races. That race it was at Goodwood, the Cocked Hat Stakes, and it's a Derby trial, and you know. John Gosden at the moment, the guy cannot do anything wrong. My oh my, every race he enters and he's pretty much got a winner. He did it again on Sunday in that race in France. An absolutely incredible form at the moment. And obviously he trains the horse, and yeah, big shout, definitely.
Well, let's have a look at the prices then, if we can, for the Gordon Stakes. We mentioned that Michelangelo is the favourite. Noble Mission, of course, is Frankel's brother, if I'm not much mistaken.
That's for me. And that's where I'm going for my bet, 100-30 here, Noble Mission.
Right.
He's a battle-hardened horse. He's got guts, he's got stamina, he's got speed. He's not the best horse in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but boy, he's been around the block. He's raced far more times than Michelangelo. So he's a bit of a warrior. So I think the price discrepancy here is too much, 64, 130. For me, Noble Mission is the value bet at 130 rather than the fashionable Michelangelo.
And in fact, 5 of those 7 that you can see on the screen there are actually entered for the St Ledger.
Yeah, it's always.
You know, so we will get some clues, that's for sure.
We definitely will get clues. You get this race, and you get the Great Voltager at York, set you up for St Ledger. I'll mention another outsider because that's how I roll. Here we go. We're going down here again. 20 to 1.
You do your knees in you.
I will do, man. I did last week at the gym. I did genuinely last week. It's been in agony all weekend. But anyway, that's by the by. 20 to 1. Ed de Gas. Ed de Gas, strange name, funny name, rubbish name.
Right.
But it's got a decent profile. Won a conditions race at Sandown quite recently, and then it finished 3rd in the Queen's Vase. You remember the Queen's Vase? The Queen won it. So Prince Philip.
I do remember. Yeah,
Prince Philip had to give the Queen the prize. It was if you're a royalist, you must have found it funny.
Keep it in the family.
Keep it in the family. Well, they do.
Where does Glorious Goodwood rate for you in the kind of pantheon of meetings and festivals?
It's 3rd place for me. It's sometimes
Cheltenham,
it's fashion.
1.
Well, that's jump racing.
Oh, you're talking all flat.
Just flat only.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Trev. Just
Right.
flat only. Royal Ascot number 1. the Ebor meeting at York, which comes up at the end of August in second place, and then Glorious Goodwood in third place. If you're asking me what's the most attractive, who's in terms of ladies and dresses and attractive scenes, Glorious Goodwood by a mile at number 1. I went there a couple of times and it blew my mind. Well, the girls did.
Well, it doesn't take much, believe me. It doesn't take much to blow his mind. Anything in a skirt. So let's talk about some of the novelty markets that are around. One of which is fascinating. Danny Boyle, he of opening ceremony fame, 5-4 to be knighted by the end of the year. What do you think of that?
I think that is a fair shout because he got the Queen involved in it, didn't he? He got the Queen involved in it.
To me, that was the most memorable. I know the Cauldron lighting.
It was.
But the fact that when you saw you just thought, yes, it's going to be a shot from behind or a distant shot of that lookalike lady who's always in it. And you're thinking, it's the Queen saying, "Good evening, Mr. Bond."
And it was the way they filmed it. It was just like, I was almost anticipating. You're like, wait, is it the Queen? Is it the Queen? Is it the Queen? And it was the Queen. Amazing. But you're right, Trevor. 4-1 originally for Boyle to get knighted, and Ladbrokes actually reported, Jessica Bridge from Ladbrokes reported a £2,000 bet on Boyle at 4-1 to be knighted, cut into 5-4. So the money's come for Boyle, the man who directed Trainspotting, of course. Choose life, choose money, choose a bet on Danny Boyle here at 4-1.
Do you know will he be doing the closing ceremony as well? Or did he just do the opening ceremony?
I don't know actually, but I'm looking forward to that. We saw the Arctic Monkeys, and that really got me excited on Friday night. Who are we going to see on the closing ceremony? I've got my fingers crossed for Oasis, Radiohead, and a bit of Blur, please. That'd be great.
So who are your sort of best bets for the next few days? Doesn't have to be for tonight. The next sort of week coming up. Anything caught your attention, either Goodwood-wise or in the Olympics?
Yes, an Olympic bet. And I know virtually nothing about diving, Trevor. But I've done
So what team do you support? It's not Spurs,
Queen of the South.
No, you're all right, okay.
We don't dive up in Scotland. We're a hardy bunch. Chubo in the diving. Chubo, no Subo. Chubo at 4-6 to win the diving. He absolutely dominated the World Championships last year. He's by far the best diver. This is the 10 metres platform individual. Tom Daly's in next Friday. He's 4-6. I've spoke to a lot of experts who reckon he should be 1-4, 1-5. So Chubo 4-6 to beat Tom Daly. And I know I'm a bit bad going against Tom Daly, but I've got a bit of a confession to make. I just never managed to like the guy. I don't know what it is. I just can't get behind Tom Daly. And I'm getting a lot of abuse for it.
Any bets that stand out for you as being particularly bad bets or sucker bets to be avoided at all costs?
Well, Team
GB at the football?
Team GB, actually. We should point out, actually, we did, the three of us, me, you and Nigel, all said that Great Britain wouldn't qualify for Group A. That was 100-30. That's now 7-4. So, like Mark Landon was talking about earlier on, it's all about the Uruguay game. And I completely agree with Mark Landon. I think Team GB are in trouble here. And I think Uruguay will beat them. And that will pretty much kill off Team GB's hopes, because then Senegal just needs to avoid defeat against the UAE, which they're definitely capable of doing, to kill off Great Britain's hopes. But yeah,
we will see in a couple of evenings' time. Chris, thanks for your company tonight, and more particularly, thank you very much to you for watching. We'll do it all over again tomorrow evening at 7 on the Punter. For now, though, from both of us, bye bye.